Beginning guitar was a super frustrating and tedious process that had so many simple little mistakes that if I just heard one thing on the internet or from a teacher early on, I wouldn't have had to deal with later. So in this video, I'm gonna reveal them to you to save you hours and years of time. Number one is take the pick, put it up to the string, realize that you're picking flat, which is sometimes okay, but changing that to a 45-ish degree angle to a slice, just like a knife through the strings, faster, which also just helps with more accuracy, in my opinion. And for those reasons, it is still the most important technique to get alternate picking faster and faster, more effectively. And it also feels better on my wrist, which is personal preference. The second thing I wish I knew was I was pushing down on the fretboard way too hard. You don't need to abuse the guitar. It really hasn't disappointed you in any way. And the reason that is so fatal is when you press down really hard, it slightly moves the strings, making them bend slightly off pitch, and in very exaggerated ways, it can sound pretty bad. So to combat this, you need to remember to be gentle on both your rhythm hand and your fret hand, unless you're doing something very intentional. If not, keep it looser, and it'll also make it way easier for you to finesse around. So when you get into more Hendrix style or guitar solo stuff, it makes your life 1,000 times easier. And that one mistake alone flew under my radar for over 2 years. And the moment I switched it, my playing went way better and just had a way better tone in general. And the third silent killer for when I started learning guitar was not learning entry-level theory. There's music theory of complicated shit. People, make complicated for no reason. And there's stuff that everybody keeps simple that you really need to learn, such as intervals, chords, functional harmony. If I knew those months or even a year earlier, I would have been able to be creative way beforehand and start understanding songs on a deeper level earlier, which would have made my progress so much smoother. So go find videos either by me or someone else that explain these concepts either on the guitar or just on a paper really, really well, because it is really essential to building a strong musical foundation. Now, the fourth beginner trap I fell into was that early stage gear trap. This is something that I haven't seen talked about too much in what I've watched, and it's something that I think is more important than most people think. Your first guitar, I feel like a lot of people tend to overspend, when really all you need is something just like this. It sucked, it was low quality, but for the first year and a little change of playing, it was exactly what I needed, because no matter what guitar I played on, I was going to sound like absolute shit. So just sound like shit on a shit guitar, know you actually like the instrument and are progressing at a steady rate, and then get something that sounds a lot better, because you won't be sounding like shit no matter what. And another edge of this sword is your amp. Most people get a better guitar before a better amp, and I am thankful I never made this mistake, and I pray you don't either, because at an early stage, I know I said your shit is just going to sound like shit, but a better amp, like going from a 15 watt to a 25 or 30 watt, is going to make your shit sound less muddy and more clear, and you can maybe get into entry effect pedals like distortion or overdrive to start getting a more punchier tone if you play more rocky stuff. Of course, the third part of that gear trap is pedals. Buy an overdrive or distortion early, because those are entry-level pedals that can help really introduce you to. And then maybe get a fuzz, and then whichever one you don't have, and then stay there for a little bit. Don't go buying reverb and choruses stuff too early, because you don't really understand them, and it's really just too early for them, because once you really get into an intermediate stage, exploring pedals is going to be a lot better and a lot easier and give you new creative edges. And a huge thing that secretly killed my progression when I was beginning was I thought rhythm guitar was some gay thing. It was the dumbest thing ever, but do not overlook rhythm guitar, because it is more essential than learning lead guitar and looking cool and being the best person on stage. But without rhythm, you're not going to be good at lead. Rhythm is the most important thing you can do in your music playing. If you're going to play a note, make sure that rhythm is right, because a wrong pitch does not sound nearly as bad as a wrong note, especially once you get into a setting where you have a bassist, a drummer, and those little note mistakes can actually fly under the radar, and a lot of beginners don't really realize that. Which brings me into the next thing of when you're practicing a song, a really awful beginner habit to get into is get all flustered when you make some super small error. If you just play through it, people aren't really going to notice or remember after 5 seconds. Good, decent human beings aren't really looking at you trying to figure out how to critique you and blah. They're really just trying to have a good time when they're listening to you play guitar. So don't worry about that. And if you found this video helpful for some very common beginner mistakes you need to avoid, let me know in the comments below if there's any things that you think I missed if you're a more advanced player. And of course, follow for more guitar content. I post videos like this 1 to 2 times a week and shorts every day to help you learn guitar better or just feel like you're in the nice guitar space.